I'm giving you a choice. Either put on these glasses or start eating that trash can.
I already am eating from the trash can all the time. The name of this trash can is ideology.
Slavoj Žižek is one of those wacky philosophers that you come across for the bizarre behavior, physical tics he has, manner of speaking, and you become interested because of his cultural analysis and his weird form of philosophy. While he can be very difficult to understand at times with his thick accent, fidgeting, and persistent sniffing,
blah blah blah.
And his philosophy is quite dense to understand, he nonetheless is entertaining enough of a personality that I have always stayed interested in him, and like that, he isn't dull, boring, or repetitive like many other philosophers. Many people have become more familiar with him due to his famous debate with Jordan Peterson. I have seen the debate and didn't really take much from it, considering I find Peterson very bland, dull, and having no real profound ideas in comparison to Zizek or any other notable philosophers. I am though glad that through the debate, people have started to know more and more about Slavoj Žižek and become more interested in his analysis and thought. While people find him amusing enough, it's really his criticism of Marxism, while also calling himself a Marxist, and overall his observations of modern civilization is what makes him stand apart, as he draws people in with his goofy personality to then give people some useful philosophy. While I will at times disagree with him on many points, I feel there is something about Žižek that makes him stand out from the usual group of bland philosophers. Žižek was born in Ljubljana in the PR Slovenia of Yugoslavia into a middle-class family on March 21st, 1949. His father was an economist and civil servant, while his mother was an accountant. He spent most of his childhood in the coastal town of Portorož, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, where he was exposed to Western film, theory, and popular culture. At first, he wanted to become a filmmaker, but soon he abandoned these ambitions and chose to pursue philosophy instead. In 1967, during an era of liberalization in Tito's Yugoslavia, Žižek enrolled at the University of Ljubljana and studied philosophy and sociology. In the late 1980s, Žižek came to public attention as a columnist for the alternative youth magazine
Mladina,
which was critical of Tito's policies, Yugoslav politics, and especially the militarization of society. He would later participate in politics with the co-founding of the Slovenian Liberal Democratic Party. In 1990, he ran for a seat on the four-member collective Slovenian presidency, narrowly missing office. Žižek's first published book in English, The Sublime Object of Ideology, appeared in 1989. Since then, Žižek has published over a dozen books, edited several collections, published numerous philosophical and political articles, and maintained a tireless speaking schedule. Žižek and his thought have also been the subject of several documentaries. There is a 1996 German film on him, which I haven't seen completely yet, as well as a 2004 and 2005 documentary covering him and his philosophy. Now, I haven't really seen these documentaries either until recently, but the way I discovered him was the 2013 documentary Pervert's Guide to Ideology, directed by Sophie Yanis. Now, this documentary is a sequel to his Pervert's Guide to Cinema from 2006, but I have only seen parts of that film as I'm more familiar with the sequel. Actually, the way it was sort of advertised was through an entertaining and important interview with him on Vice, talking about and promoting the film. This video, in combination with the film, is what got me fascinated with the dude, as after recently rewatching the documentary, I am amazed that it still holds up quite well with its important analysis. Of course, I generally love film analysis, so the documentary is right up my alley. The film goes over classic movies such as They Live, The Sound of Music, A Clockwork Orange, Jaws, and also obscure movies I haven't even heard of or seen before, such as Brief Encounter, Seconds, and The Fall of Berlin. Well edited and quite engaging, to be honest. I feel this type of documentary gets me more interested in these listed films, as Zizek gives his interpretation of the movies, as he is the central character throughout the documentary. The best part of the documentary is when he talks about religion with the film Last Temptation of Jesus Christ, and how Stalinism was just a version of a state religion that, while unique, was able to justify horrible atrocities similar to how many religious fundamentalists will do as well. In addition to that, his exploration of German anti-Semitic propaganda and how anti-Semitism was able to develop in an advanced industrialized society, which was Germany, was quite illuminating, as I always wanted to learn more of that period in Europe's history and how anti-Semitism took root. A really great documentary and a great way to get into Zizek, as from there I have seen other documentaries of him, which are pretty intriguing. But other than that documentary, the most I learned about the guy is from clips on YouTube. These bite-sized videos are always amusing to watch, as, like I stated earlier, we not only see his weird behavior on display, but all of his idiosyncrasies. If I were to give a list of some of my favorite videos of him being goofy and insightful, this would be quite a long video, but for the sake of time, I'll give y'all at least 3 of my favorite videos that I'll recommend and put in the description below. First, there is a short portion of the documentary Examine Life from 2008, where Zizek explains his views on ecology, how it has become a conservative movement, and that we need to develop new ideas on nature, ecology, and climate change. Then I really love the video where he explains how most philosophers have issues with wisdom and how useless it can be at times. It's quite something to hear, but his explanation of how wisdom isn't taken seriously by philosophers is really hilarious.
I'm generally opposed to wisdom. I think wisdom is the most disgusting thing you can imagine. Wisdom is the most conformist thing you can imagine.
But it's so interesting that a philosopher should be against wisdom.
We all are. I mean, your Kierkegaard knew this. Kierkegaard was anti-wise man par excellence.
Lastly, my personal favorite video from him is his deep dive into Christianity and how it leads to atheism. This is actually what he went into in The Pervert's Guide to Ideology with his analysis of the Last Temptation of Christ. But I feel he goes further into his explanation of how atheism can come out of Christianity. Considering I used to be religious, his insight here is quite profound to me.
As Hegel says, what dies on the cross is God of beyond himself.
It's very hard to put Zizek in a category, as he has described himself as a Hegelian and also a follower of Lacan. He has also described himself as a communist, while also being very critical of many so-called communist regimes. He has been especially critical of Stalinism, calling it maybe the worst ideological, political, ethical, social catastrophe in the history of humanity. So because of that, many individuals, especially on the left, have criticized Zizek for being inconsistent, not being a real communist, or even stating that aspects of his thought are problematic. I remember a few years ago Zizek got into some hot water online when he wrote an article where he appeared that he was being somewhat critical of the transgender movement. I've heard bizarre claims from leftists saying that aspects of his philosophy are racist, but that kind of is expected in today's world. As of the making of this video, he's been once again criticized by many in the left wing for his stance on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Other philosophers have also voiced their dislike for Zizek. Notably, Noam Chomsky had some things to say, as he didn't like the theories given by Zizek.
Well, you say his work is becoming influential. I would question that. I think his posturing is becoming influential. Can you tell me what the work is?
And I do have to say that Zizek's theories can at times be just posturing and of no use, while also being somewhat inconsistent at times in his messages, as you're not sure what exactly he stands for. With that said though, there can be an advantage at times to not be so easily categorized or have your philosophy so easily put into a box. Zizek, with all his mannerisms, physical tics, and somewhat difficult to understand accent, is great for people as an introduction into many of these schools of thought. Really, without Zizek in The Pervert's Guide to Ideology, I don't think I would really have been that interested in philosophy at that point in my life. But his cultural analysis and personality is what got me going down the rabbit hole online with all these movements and ideas that he is educating us on. That really is why I like the dude. His personality is just so wild that you can't really dislike him or want to stop listening to him. There is a wonderfully put comment I found from the video Slavoj Žižek, Do Christians Really Believe in God? The Paradox of Belief, which I think says way more than what I can come up with in this video on why I like the dude. Zizek is easily one of the most authentic human beings I've ever seen. His ego strength is just amazing. He does not care what you think of him, which is so refreshing. Whenever something does tug at his insecurities, he so often just admits it outright, as though he didn't even struggle with the thought of being judged for admitting such a thing. He's both a critical thinker and dogmatic at the same time. If a man has something to say, he's going to say it. And he's going to say it the same way every time, regardless of the venue or the audience. I have a true respect for Zizek. The way he visually sits in stark contrast to the rest of the men at the table is entirely emblematic of just how independent a thinker he truly is. I don't even think conformity is in his vocabulary. That comment really sums up why I continue binge watching his videos. The confidence he gives and the fact that he can't be easily embarrassed is truly amazing. He is truly a bizarre philosopher who is quite memeable with all the added fidgeting he does while speaking. It's almost like he is close to a modern day Diogenes, if anybody knows who that weird homeless Greek philosopher is. There's an endless, and I mean endless amount of videos that I haven't mentioned of him which are absolutely hilarious. I would almost love to do a compilation of him, as it is popular to do so on YouTube. So I might do that for the end of this video, as well as include links to the 3 videos of him I consider my favorite in the description below. With all that said, I'll leave off with a few questions for people to reply to in the comments section down below. Is Slavoj Žižek a legitimate philosopher or just a joke? Do you like his philosophy? Or is he inconsistent in his views? Well, I hope you liked this brief video of me talking about this weird and unique philosopher. Please do me a favor and like and subscribe. And like always, I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
I'm gay. I am a man who wants to do it with men.
Yeah,
So-
I understand that.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
there are bits of your book I have to say that I found hard to grasp, but you know that is clear.
Yes.
Poor Slavoj.
I feel like a refugee here on the stage.
I will take you in, don't worry.
You'll give me your home and your wife?
Wait.
Oh, I see.
You see,
Very
she's a
nice.
little bit retarded, you know. She needs some time to get...
Kind of a anal sex call, like, I need a young guy to fuck me into my ass. If not, I will have to do it myself with the stick.
Oh, sorry, seriously. Can I give you some fucking fruit juice or
I'd
Coke?
love some fucking fruit juice,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.